Alright, this is TPW Talking Pro Wrestling, and it's time for AEW Dynamite results. Very solid show in general. There was a couple of things that changed around the course of the show. A big announcement came into play as well. Great to see all that good stuff. We were in Austin, Texas for this edition of AEW Dynamite. We've got some big matchups coming into play as well. AEW Dynamite comes on the air as the TNT champion Wardlow makes his entrance, and Wardlow immediately afterwards called out Christian Cage after his comments from last week, daring Cage to spit in his face. Right on cue, Cage then came with Luchasaurus as backup. After a face-off, Cage said Wardlow's time as TNT champion is just about over, and was about to spit in his face when the brawl began. The numbers were too much as Cage hit a low blow, while Luchasaurus pulled out a ladder and chokeslammed Wardlow through it. Cage followed with a kill switch onto the bent-up ladder, making that look even more brutal. Cage then stood tall with the TNT title over the body of Wardlow. And then Excalibur briefly recapped the action. The Don Callis last week from Kenny Omega's matchup and plugs how tonight we will hear from him. Then we saw the AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin take on Lee Moriarty and Big Bill for a tag team match. This was a fun opener match. We saw some chemistry between Allin and Cassidy, especially after teaming together on the House Rules show. The finish and callback from Allin and the side headlock was nice to see as well. Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy did get the victory over Lee Moriarty and Big Bill. This was a good matchup, though. Alex Marvez tried to interview the Young Bucks back in the parking lot, trying to give a quick update on Kenny Omega. The Young Bucks said that Omega is hurt, but that he'll be fine. Then Blackpool surrounded them. Nick was slammed on the hood of a trunk, while Matt's bad arm was targeted. Jon Moxley said the Blackpool Combat Club are the only elite group around here, and they walked off with the Bucks left lying there. Renee Paquette tried to get a medical update on Wardlow from doctors when Arn Anderson showed up, furious, slapping an ice pack away from Wardlow, asking him what he's prepared to do. Wardlow said he's willing to beat Cage at his own game and challenges Cage to a TNT title ladder match at Double or Nothing. Renee was then backstage with Orange Cassidy, asking him about Kyle Fletcher attacking him last week. Cassidy then said whoever wants a shot at the international title can find Tony Khan and that he'll fight anybody. Sammy Guevara then had a squash match. He took on Exodus Prime. The Dapper Yapper Justin Roberts really did emphasize Sammy being from Texas, as the past few weeks it's been coming across that Guevara is a babyface, which is strange after all this time he's been a heel and people have not liked him. But also, to be fair, Sammy Guevara didn't intentionally turn heel. The fans just started not liking him after the stuff going on with him and Ty Mello. So that might be something going on too. But then, of course, Guevara's got an interesting story going on with the Pillars and MJF in general. So anyway, Guevara hit a GTH for the quick win. He took the mic and called out the old days in Texas, saying everything he went through to become what he is today. Guevara listens to his heart, which tells him he's going to be the new AEW World Champion. And then FTR showed up to try and get their revenge at some point here. Tony Schiavone was in the ring when he introduced Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt to the ring. They were making their entrances. Dutt then showed off 2 guitars with FTR's names on them. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler ran out from the back, sent Singh off the stage through a table, and attacked Jarrett, Sanjay, and Jay Lethal. Ultimately, then, later on in the time, Karen Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett's wife, jumped in from behind, hit a low blow on Cash Wheeler, and then that went on from there. Not really a big fan of Karen Jarrett showing up there, but, I mean, ultimately, whatever. I'm not gonna let that ruin the entire show of Dynamite, because that was one low that I had from there. Renee Paquette was then backstage with Darby Allin, referencing the headlock finish of his match earlier. Allin then said it was a message to MJF when Sammy Guevara came in and said that he respects Darby Allin. Guevara then said he knows he doesn't trust him, but he then says he won't lay down for MJF if that matters at Double or Nothing. And that all that matters is he doesn't walk away as AEW World Champion. Then Allin said, "May the best man win," and fist bumps Sammy Guevara there. Tony Storm and Ruby Soho with Saraya had a matchup with Dr. Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida. This was supposed to be a trios match, but then it got changed, seemingly because Jamie Hayter got injured. She has not shown up at all for this episode of Dynamite, so that might be the case. Might be a storyline going on here, but it's hard to know anymore, so we'll just have to wait and see on here. The crowd was really behind Hikaru and Britt Baker tonight, as this was Shida's first match back since December on Elevation. I'm assuming that the match was set for Double or Nothing, as Jamie Hayter was not there, of course. Tony Storm and Ruby Soho did defeat Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida, thanks to cheating. Then Renee Paquette was backstage yet again with Orange Cassidy, who informs Cassidy, since they talked earlier, 20 men went to Tony Khan's office and answered the challenge. Cassidy said it's a lot, so that he will make it a 21-man blackjack battle royale for the international title at Double or Nothing. Then Cassidy said to Renee Paquette if she wants to be part of it, which then she said that she was good. Tony Khan was backstage and talked about today being one of the greatest days in the history of All Elite Wrestling. Very much doubt that, by the way, but it is a big announcement. It was announced at the TNT Upfronts that the 2-hour AEW Collision show will premiere Saturday, June 17th. Collision will be a hot ticket, with the premiere location being announced last week. However, June 24th will be in Toronto, in Hamilton. For Toronto, June 29th. In Hamilton, July 8th. In Regina, July 15th. Oh, wait, sorry. Toronto will be June 24th. Hamilton, June 29th. Regina, July 8th. Calgary, July 15th. And finally, Newark, New Jersey, back in America, for July 22nd. So within all that, I will throw out an episode just on Collision and how I think it should go, talking about championship titles, talking about the roster, all that good stuff. That'll be coming to you at some point in the coming days or weeks. I don't know. We'll see. Roderick Strong then defeated Chris Jericho in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Falls Count Anywhere fight. This definitely lived up to the stipulation, as they fought all over the building and had some really fun moments. It really played off like Cole and Shaw pulled one over on Jericho, outsmarting him and luring him outside of the building. Credit to Excalibur, who delivered the unfortunate news of Billy Graham's passing. I probably would have waited till after the match, but safe to say that wasn't necessarily Excalibur's call. But yeah, let's give out a moment of silence to Billy Graham. Rest in peace. Alright, now let's go back and let's continue on. Jungle Boy Jack Perry then took on Roosh. This matchup was super hard hitting. This matchup was incredible. Every time I see Roosh in a match, I just know it's going to be good. Roosh is freaking amazing at what he does. He seriously is underrated. There's a reason why he was Ring of Honor World Champion at a time. This guy is incredible. Oh, God. His matchup with Bryan Danielson was good. And this matchup was incredible too. There were some questionable moments, however, though, with the random cup check and the referee watching Jose get involved constantly. Regardless, the match was fun, and it showed a visual in the post-match with 3 of the 4 pillars having a face-off ahead of Double or Nothing. Jungle Boy Jack Perry defeated Roosh, of course, but afterwards they had a good visual of the 3 of the 4 pillars, which then, of course, afterwards MJF was backstage and Renee Paquette approached him. After seeing what just happened, she asks how he's feeling, and MJF slapped the microphone out of her hands and then did a Miro treatment. We then saw footage of Jamie Hayter being injured last month by Tony Storm, who was standing by with Renee Paquette backstage. Storm said she's setting records in AEW with 4 wins in 5 days, and says she's an entirely different animal in AEW than at Full Gear, challenging Jamie Hayter for a women's title rematch at Double or Nothing. Well, that changes everything. I thought we were going to have a trios match, but that does not seem to be the case. Well, we'll see. The matchup hasn't been official yet. And then, of course, Jay White will take on Ricky Starks in this matchup as well, with Juice Robinson in Jay White's corner. I was surprised that this match took place on Dynamite instead of Double or Nothing. The finish definitely allows them to have a rematch on Double or Nothing. Great matchup while it lasted, and this was a very intense main event from the start to the finish. The crowd was into it also. That also helps. This ended up being a disqualification as Ricky Starks hit Jay White with a chair in the back. That ended up being a DQ. So yeah, there's that. Finally, Then we saw Don Callis show up, that piece of crap, making his way to the ring with security lined up. Within the footage of Callis turning on Omega last week being shown, as Callis had major heat going out of the building. And I am not surprised at all. It's Kenny Omega. You don't mess with the best bout machine like that. And when I say massive, that's an understatement. On certain occasions when Don Callis was speaking, I couldn't hear him just because of how loud the crowd was booing at Don Callis. I'm not even making that up. That is exactly what happened. I couldn't hear him what he was saying a good chunk of the time. It was crazy. Schiavone asks why, as Don Callis then said, instead of why he did what he did to Omega, he'll talk about what Omega did to him. Callis is apparently the victim in this scenario, as he ran down everything he's done for Omega, and without Don Callis, that there is no Kenny Omega. That line brought out Kenny Omega from the back, laying out the security guards until Blackpool Comic Club attacked from behind. The BCC then jumped into the ring and said this was the Elite's final warning to stay down. Omega struggled to his feet as the Young Bucks limped out with weapons in hand. The numbers then evened up as Hangman Adam Page walked out to a massive ovation. Omega handed him a barbed wire broom. The brawl was on as the Elite took turns beating up Wheeler Yuta, and the Young Bucks hit a BTE trigger and Page with a buckshot lariat. Hangman stood next to the Bucks and Omega and said they are the heart of AEW and that they are the Elite. Page then said at Double or Nothing that it'll be the Blackpool Comic Club versus the Elite in Anarchy in the Arena. This was an incredible ending, as the crowd was on fire from even the moment Callis walked out. Overall, this episode of Dynamite was a great episode. The only things I would say were lows or bad were, of course, the referee watching Jose try to get involved a lot. And then, of course, Billy Graham's passing being announced during the match. Of course, but again, that wasn't probably wasn't necessarily Excalibur's fault. But it was the high for that was the fact that he mentioned Billy Graham in general. Again, rest in peace to him. But overall, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Karen Jarrett's debut was not needed. We don't need her. We really don't. But anyway, Rampage predictions coming to you here. Alright guys, now it's time for Rampage predictions. Bishop Khan will take on Dustin Rhodes. Finally, Dustin Rhodes gets a matchup. Of course, Dustin's going to win here. Jade Cargill has an open challenge for the TBS Championship. Of course, Jade's going to win here. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn will take on the Varsity Athletes and Ari Daivari. The Acclaimed and Billy will most likely win this matchup. We'll hear from the Hardy Boys, which will be nice to see. Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta will take on the Best Amigos, also known as the Best Friends and Bandito. Which in this matchup, I see Blackpool Comic Club getting the victory here. Well, there you go, guys. That's it for Rampage predictions. But once again, Collision stuff will be on an episode. It will just be in one part of an episode the entire episode that I have will just be me talking about how I think AEW Collision should go within titles, within the roster, and also some kind of early predictions on how I think the first show will be booked in general. But more will come to you for that. And the episode will be published in the coming days or maybe in the coming weeks. We'll see. But I'll give you a heads up on when it comes out, when I'm ready for it. So anyway, this is TPW Talking Pro Wrestling. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Good night, everybody.